I'm Debbie Bridge. I am an actor, voiceover actor, and I am a singer. And what would I like to, you can find me on my website, Debbie Bridge. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you want to join me in my journey in life, I'm even on YouTube. Yeah, join me on YouTube. I'm always looking for more subscribers on YouTube. Please do. And I will be having a show out in the next few years called Shirley Not the Siren. And yeah, she's good fun. When I was, I think it was 11 or 12, my first performance, even though I didn't even really know that's what I was doing. Do you know 2001 Space Odyssey, the music, the famous
I do,
orchestral
yes.
piece? Well, we did I don't know, what do they call it? It wasn't a spoof, but it was a kind of tipping the hat to it. And I came out of this black box and I started to conduct this piece, even though I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm.
And it was amazing. It was amazing. I didn't do anything spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
I just went like this. But I guess the integrity in which I did it was so clearly portrayed that never has changed. That connection, that's what obviously led me down this path at some point to do even more, even though I wouldn't have called that really a performance. But there was something about being connected to that moment, to the people in the room, that took me and everything else to another place. And that was what I used to get as a kid when I used to watch, those Cary Grant films and whatever, or go to the live shows. And I would just become this almost serene, quiet person afterwards, whenever I had an amazing, magical moment when I saw something that really touched me in the visual arts. And my parents used to be like, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" Because I used to be quite a blah, blah, blah. And then I'd be like deadly quiet. And I think that has never really changed throughout the entire process. When I feel really connected to that source, and I don't think that's just an artist thing, I think that every human being has it. That's what's magical about it, and that's never changed. It's just my skills have. I sing better in tune now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Has the journey been fun thus far?
It has been excruciatingly painful. There's been fun.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, it's been tough. I never wanted to be the tortured artist, but I ended up landing in that. At first, I thought that's what you needed to be, because I started out in music. So it was like, people who had really great stories were the ones that had something to say. And I thought, well, I'm really boring. I had a really boring childhood. It was great. And then I somehow landed in it. And that has just been a great personal journey to get past that and still do this career. And I always say this career picked me. I didn't pick it. So I had other ideas of what I was going to do in life. And this is where I ended up. And, my dad always said, "You're exactly where you need to be." And this is where I am. I think it's just going to get better and better. And I do strongly believe it. The more true I am to myself and what I believe and how I want to do that, the better and better it becomes for me as a human being, and hopefully for the people around me as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you could go back and talk to yourself at 11 or 12, I mean, is there something what would you tell yourself?
Go be a pilot. Like, what would I say to myself? I don't have to work so hard to achieve the things in life. I think that was one of the things. I felt like I had to be a beast of burden. I had to prove to the world that I was working at this hard. And I don't believe that was necessary, that message in my head. Yes, of course, you have to have drive and due diligence and willingness and all of that. But the sledgehammer that I have had in the past, and hopefully infrequently now, is too big. It's too big, and it doesn't help. and it's not rational, and it's not yeah, it's I think, staying with that little girl who was, conducting, and just knew that this was the right place
Yeah.
is enough. That's
Yeah.
enough to achieve it.
Well, I saw you did. I'm sure. I'm guessing this is the character you created, Shirley Siren.
Yes, that's my latest show, Shirley the Middle-Aged Siren.
Yeah.
Yeah, I created her because you never hear about middle-aged sirens, do you? Or
You're
mermaids,
right.
basically.
You're right. You're right.
No, you
Yeah.
don't hear about any of that. It's always like, what happens to them after they, get past 100? Because they live very long.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Did that
So
just kind of come to you in the middle of the night, or
no,
where were
see,
you when it's?
this is always very important. I was thinking about this the other day. I think a lot, don't I?
Yeah.
Where are my moments? Where do I go to think? And one of those places that I slow down in is I have baths. I love baths.
Mm-hmm.
And Shirley came literally out of being in the bathtub one day. I asked that ridiculous question: what happens to middle-aged mermaids or aging mermaids, other than the guy with the pitchfork?
Aquaman.
No, he's not middle-aged. He's quite young. No, I'm thinking
Okay.
Poseidon and all. Poseidon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the only one that I've ever seen that's an older type fishy person, merman
That's right.
creature. Otherwise, they're all seem to be young.
That's right.
They don't age. What happens to them? So that's where she came from. And I thought, what a great platform to talk about some of the issues and attitudes people have, but also laugh with her through the journey of that transition. Being now in that middle, what I call the middling years. Mm-hmm. I thought, this is a great opportunity to talk about that, especially for a woman, where we tend to be, for her, she gets put out to sea, but put on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's that about? That's crazy. Yeah. That's just ridiculous. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's the way it needs to be. And it's a really huge problem, I feel, in society, seeing as we have this huge aging population, we're so incredibly ageist. In the Western world, more than I'd say in other cultures, maybe. But yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to start to open up the dialogue, and let's have some fun with this and talk about it with this show, and get to sing and act in a crazy way.
And comedy, though. It's comedy.
Oh yeah. It's really hard for me to write anything. I did a workshop this week with writing, and I said I gave the genre of horror, but it still ended up a comedy for me. I can't help myself. Something in my brain. I have a distorted view of the world.
Yeah. But like many of us, though, I think I'm in that same lane with you. So don't feel bad.
Good.
Yeah. But is that true that as one ages, the amount of, or the opportunities kind of shrink? Are you seeing that?
Yes, definitely. For women, absolutely, massively. Even for men to a certain extent, especially if you're not known, but maybe a little less so. I think younger men have it hard. It depends which genre you're in. So if you're in movies, a young male actor might have more difficulties than an older male actor. There seems to be more written in film and TV for them. But saying that, in opera and everything, you tend to, the older you get, the more the mature, your voice matures and you get stronger, and you might get hired even more than that's the same as they get older. Whereas the women, they not so much. Music theater, mostly young women, and it's probably about a lot of young men too. So that was probably ageist on both sides. Not a lot written for older parts there. And voiceover, it doesn't matter. That's the best one, because it's what you sound like. So hopefully, even that is changing in the industry now. The better you look, the easier it is to market yourself. But yeah, it can be disconcerting for people once they see you. Not necessarily myself or anything, but I know that people have had this. And I don't mean that just about looking a certain age, even looking a certain way. So people get an expectation when they hear the voice, and then they look at the person and they're like, whoa, that don't match.
Yeah.
So that can be difficult sometimes for people in the voiceover industry, how to market themselves in a way that works without taking them outside of themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing about voiceover. There's a lot of great people in it, but they're not necessarily want to be the showman of the visual side of it. They're just interested in the sound side of it. So there are, that can be a difficulty for people.
Okay. Now we were talking about this kind of like this, the floodgates kind of open, so a lot more people kind of entering the market. Is that the same for voiceover as well? Like you're starting to see more people in the industry?
Massive. It's just absolutely exploded because all of those people who were doing the stage and the film and all of that stuff, it all just went into, and now they had to find another place, just like I did. I put all my energy into the voiceover. So I don't think this will be forever, because voiceover, I say to people, it's a bit like learning ballet. You don't just, walk in and do it. There are certain skills you need to have and learn to help you do the best job possible. So it's like any of the art forms. I wouldn't say to people, just go off and be an actor unless, you feel that you have the drive and the desire and the willing to put yourself through all sorts of stuff. The uncertainty of it, a lot of people kind of look at me and they go, oh, you have a great life. And I'm like, yeah, there's no pension.
Yeah.
No job security. There's low pay. And anything that is an ism is in the industry.
That's right.
Because it's easy to couch it in, well, that's the character, or that's the part, or that's what we need. So it's harder to put the red flags out and say, that's why we had that Me Too thing that came out with Weinstein.
Yeah.
Because that isn't hard in this world. I would assume modeling and dance and all of that has a very similar problem. Because they can get away with saying, well, we need a model that's, this, because that's the requirement.
Yeah. Well, how have you been able to, I don't know if able is the right word. How do you deal with it? Because there's a lot of rejection. There's also, like you said, a lot of ism. And so that means that there are a lot of boxes you may or may not check. So how do you deal with that? Because it seems could be very depressing at times, could be very lonely at times. How do you escape all that? How do you deal with that?
You know what? I feel like that's probably one of the best gifts that it can give a person is, if I can survive this, I can survive anything in life, because everything else seems almost easy in comparison.
Yeah.
The way that people can talk to you at times and what they might say and they might say it. That's a big one. How people say things is a massive one. Or not say things. If you're somebody who needs to live on somebody telling you you're doing a great job, don't go into the arts, because quite often the excuse is they're too busy to appreciate you in the current situation that they may be working in. So you don't get a lot of that. So the biggest thing I first learned was, if they're not talking to you about any notes or any problems, you're all right.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. That you don't need to go up to the director and say, oh, what about me? You didn't give me a note. Oh, you're only being a pain in the if you do that, because supposedly they're too busy to be like, I don't need to give you boostings. Get out of my, face.
Yeah.
So it's a gift of learning self-confidence, self-belief, self-assurance. And that's the choice I wish to make. And I know a lot of people say that to me. They're like, oh, you're such a strong person. I'm like, I don't feel like a strong person. I just feel like, maybe I'm like a swan. I look great, but underneath my feet are just paddling away like crazy, like everybody else.
Yeah.
So faking it helps.
Yeah, I bet.
Learning different techniques to build yourself up, having things outside of work that mean a lot to you, maybe even more than the work itself. Having a full, rich, interesting, creative, fun life And I have pets. I love pets. They help a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of hard to be feeling lousy about something when you know you got your little cat dog running up to you going, hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh.
That's right. What kind of movies are you? What kind of movies do you watch? And the follow-up question that would be is, can you watch them just as a fan, or when you're watching, are you watching from a technical aspect? Are you watching like how the actors are performing?
Yeah, this is always a tough one because the more I get into the industry and learning things all the time, the more that can be harder for me to switch off. But I know the best pieces. I don't get the analyzing. I don't notice things. I just come out of the movie and go, wow, or the show, wow. And then I might start to notice, oh, the cinematography was amazing, or the script was incredible, or the acting was. If I start to notice those things while I'm watching it, could be that maybe it needs some tightening up. But, I'm not an expert. I'm just one person's opinion of what I'm watching. It's a bit like, some people love Picasso, some people hate Picasso.
That's right.
You like Cubism or you don't, or you like modern art, or you like GarageBand or you don't. It's like
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So who knows? I think it's really hard to judge the arts that way, because if you've got an audience and you feel that what you have to offer is needed in the world and you need to give that, I think that's more important than anything else.
Given the fact that roles are kind of limited, are there roles that you won't play? Like you say, okay, I'm not going to play this type of character.
Well, outside of pornography.
Well, yeah, notwithstanding pornography, yeah.
Let's see. Are there roles? That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. Are there roles I wouldn't do? I think it was, there are roles. Yes, I have turned down jobs where I felt the character that they've written is so, if I can afford to, is so not real. I think one of the roles I most detest that still lives in the world, and I wouldn't watch this genre, but I'd be filmed in it if they created better female characters, of course. Okay. But that woman that goes, oh, I've heard a noise downstairs, and oh gosh, I know there's a mass murder in the area, but I'm going to go down and check it out.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah.
You deserve to be killed in a way, but
that's right.
I'm not
that's
saying
right.
that.
That's right. That's right.
Any violence, anybody, or towards anybody.
That's right.
But it's a bit like, no, I'm not going to go down those stairs. So I think that those are the characters I would try to avoid.
Absolutely. What would you say makes, what do you think is most important to a movie? Is it the acting? Is it the directing? Is it the plot? Of those three things, what do you think is the most important to it? Or are they all equally important?
It's interesting because I've really thought about this. For me, it could be the sound.
You're out of 10, you're like the seventh person to say that. And I'm always, and I never even give that as an option, but people still choose it. I'm like, go ahead, tell me what you.
The reasoning is because all of those other things could be fantastic, but if the sound is bad, I don't want to watch. Nobody tends to want to watch it or listen to it or hear it or anything. So you could have great acting, great script, great lighting, great visual, and you'd be like, it's all crackly and I can't quite understand what they're saying. And it's a strain. Even though we are visual creatures, if there's meant to be a dialogue of some kind going on there that we're meant to be listening to, if that's not working, we tend to switch off. After that, well, let's see. I know as a singer and an actor that an actor can bring up a script or a song to a level that it may not be at. So one of the worst insults I've heard about writing songs is the reason people wrote songs is because they're terrible poems.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely,
There's a
absolutely.
lot to be said, I think, about that artist that takes whatever they're given and makes it, whether they say that making pearls out of swine or something, I don't know,
Yes. Mhm.
who can actually potentially bring that to maybe a faulty film. Could
Mhm.
even have bad editing, bad lighting,
Yeah.
bad direction, all of that. But if you get an excellent actor who carries that through anyway, despite all of that, and there's plenty of examples of that out there. Yeah, I think it's an amazing tool. Now, I'm sure you've got people who argue that the other way. Great script. And I don't disagree. You get a great script but you get a bad actor on a great script and it could ruin it.
That's right. That's right. But I guess
So
predominantly what people say is sound or soundtrack, and then after that, it's script. Like a lot of actors swear by script, and I'm like, I don't know if I
no, I
feel the
don't.
same.
No, because I used to do a lot of contemporary pieces.
Mhm.
People would write me music, and they were not necessarily very experienced at it. But they asked me to do it because they knew that I would bring everything to make their piece sound as good as I could do it.
Mhm.
And I do that even with a script. So even if I get a script that I feel is, maybe not a 5-star script,
Yeah.
I will bring everything I can to get it at least to a 4.5 or a 4.9 if I can,
Mhm.
whatever I can do to enhance it.
Yeah.
It may never be a 5-star, but I'll do what I can to lift it. And I think that's part of it as well. Of course, having a great script, doing Shakespeare is like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely.
yeah.
Listen, where are you on? This is just kind of just popped in my head. Where are you on working for free? Right? Like, where are you on that? Like, I know I didn't kind of forward that one to you, but you know what I mean? I like it just kind of popped into my head.
I heard something just literally before this, which I think is the best example of what I feel needs to happen, because I've heard two sides of this argument and I've experienced both sides, because coming from North America and now living here in the UK where the union is toothless, unfortunately,
Mhm.
is I feel there does need to be an allowance for people to have a place to learn the craft and learn to fall down and get back up, and when you're doing whatever, and that we could have a tiered type of system that, okay, here's the low to no pay, here's the mid, and here's the whatever the triple A's, so to speak. And that would be a great thing to have in the world, to try and allow the craft to be learnt, but not then perpetuate the undercutting and devaluing and making it not worth. It's the unworthiness we're giving to ourselves when we undervalue ourselves all the time.
Mhm.
We don't have to constantly do that. And I feel we as artists are the ones perpetuating this problem. In history, I know that part of the changes in the industry have often come from those people who said, you can't keep paying the director, producer, and star all the money from a film because we're going to walk. This is ridiculous. I cannot feed my kids. I cannot keep the basic functions. We can't keep a roof over our head, clothes on our back, and food on our table. And there's something really wrong when 3 people or 2 people are like floating off in their yachts and the rest of us are going,
Yeah.
that's not good. that's
Yeah.
not a that's leading to rebellion of some kind,
Yeah.
because you're not appreciating all the spokes of the wheel.
Yeah.
I can't feel
Unfortunately.
without
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and that's another big pet peeve of mine is that we're in an industry, both you and I, where we kind of, I don't want to say we want to be in it so badly, but we just really, it's very desirous. And so they kind of take advantage of that desire, like from top to bottom, man. And I just think it's so unfair. I just think it's extremely
It's
unfair.
wrong. It's not just unfair, it is wrong. But we, as the people in it, are the ones who need to say, this is wrong, this has got to stop.
Yeah.
Yes, it's okay when you're starting out to cut your teeth in whatever way is needed, but not forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Or-
Yeah.
yeah.
If you had your chance to be in a blockbuster movie, like who would you want to work with?
As in the directors, I can't say off the top of my head on the director thing.
Directors or actors? Doesn't matter.
Oh, I would love to work with Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's a lot of people's first choice.
Yeah, well, he likes classical music, so I felt like, we might have a good combo. He's like a really great piano player and so forth. So yeah, no, I would just really like to meet him. He seems like an interesting person. Judi Dench, of course. Yeah, all these classics. People who are dead. Cary Grant.
Yeah.
He would have been so weird and maybe funny. I don't know. I've heard mixed things about him. But yeah, just being in a film with him would just be an incredible learning. Because just watching his films just blows my mind. He just does things. I'm like, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
Who else? Lucille Ball.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about people who were so phenomenal, right? Like, and I get, and so the question would be is why are they distinctly phenomenal? And then there seems to be like this chasm or this gap between them, their abilities really. And then you kind of look at the modern day actor. Like, what's the question would be like, why is that? If we know, right?
I read a book called Music of the Spheres, and I don't know if I dare say this, but anyway, I won't mention any company names.
Okay.
But there are conglomerates that I feel that erode the system. They've eroded it, and you see it in the music industry massively, but it's everywhere. It's becoming, well, I know we've always been about selling products, and I know that, people get used to it. We're selling ourselves, we're selling the products within and around those projects, and that's just the world. But when that becomes the deciding factor of who is doing what and when and why, then we've lost contact. Where do we find the Beatles again? When it's about, so-and-so producer knows how to pick the right people. Okay, maybe they do, but are they really the front of this? There's something to be said about nurturing art. I think, when I think of Tchaikovsky and some of the great writers, they would go off and walk for days and hours. We don't have the time anymore. And that's because we're always like, rush. We need to do this as fast as possible and get it in the can and sell it. Because, our backers are saying that this has to happen in this way. So that nurturing of talent, that nurturing of all, and I don't just mean the talent of the people on the screen. I mean the talent of the writers, the cinematographers, how they do that. If they don't get the breathing space that is required of real serious creativity, it's gone. I don't think Charlie Chaplin whipped out everything he did overnight. He might have by it, after years and years of doing it, but I think he had a process that he learned on, really cutting his teeth, and doing it for years and falling on his face and literally getting back up, and figuring it out and thinking about it and, all that kind of, and I'm not saying we don't do that, but I don't think we give ourselves enough time around it because of the way that the world tends to work. Maybe now that post-COVID, we might be a little bit slower, because I think that's maybe a gift that's come out of this. It's like, actually, when I slow down, I just wrote a book, or I did this, or whatever.